Okay, so I'm going to zip through using bins and calculations in your analyses. And oh crap, I just need to sign in to Alma real quick. And I'll start with bins. Bins are super simple to use, and they're pretty super powerful as well. Whenever your report has a lot of values that are related but distinct from one another. And so like the most easy example would be to do something like physical items. If you wanted to see, show me the total count of items that are all on reserves or something like that. But your library has more than one reserves location. And what you could do is, so just have two columns. I have number of items, then I have location name, and I know that there's like 8 different reserves location names. And I don't want to see them all individually, I want to see them all together. So what I'll do is I edit formula, and there's a tab up at the top there that says bins. And then down after you click on it, there's a little button that says add bin. And what you do is basically use the criteria here to find all of the ones that have reserves in the name. And so I can see there's like 12 of them there. And I click OK, and I click OK, and I give that bin a name. I call it reserves. And what this is going to do is it's going to group together all those individual locations into one value in the results table. And then for the sake of this report, I'll say create a bin for all the rest of the values and call it other places. Okay, so now you see in the results I only have the 2 lines. One for every reserves location bunched together into one number, and then one for every other location that's in the system. And so that's a super quick basic example of what you can do with bins. What I did was in the slides I have the name of a couple of reports that I put into the shared folder here for all of us that have some more interesting examples, and I'll just show you those real quick now. The first one is not in this folder, it's in the shared folder. Okay, so this one, link resolver usage. So with this one, what I did with this one is, when you look at link resolver usage, so this is how many open URL requests took place in Primo, and each one has a source, and the source could be some EBSCO database or Google or what have you. I wanted to lump together all the different EBSCO databases, all the different Elsevier databases and sources into one value for each one, so I get to see by provider how many open URL requests were there. And so this one lumps all those together. So especially with EBSCO, there's like thousands of EBSCO sources. They're all just one source in this report. The same for ProQuest, which has a whole bunch as well. And so you can see this simplifies the report, makes it a little bit easier to see the data across, sort of at a sort of more macro level for something which is super granular. So this one's in there, and then a more groovy one is this one I linked to, loans by patron group. And this one's pretty exciting, because what this one does is it not only creates bins, so we have multiple student patron groups, for instance. This lumps them all together into one bin. But not only does it do that, it filters on the bin. So that's what's pretty rad about creating bins, is when you create them. So if I go into my user groups real quick, I look at the bins, and you can see that column that's in bold, those are the names of the bins that I created. Well, after you create a bin, when you go down and create a filter, so this is the filter I created, those bins actually show up. They're actually selected over here, but they show up as values that you can filter on. So that's pretty awesome. You can create them and then use them in your analysis. And so what I did was I created bins for the groups I wanted to see, and then I filtered so I only saw those, and I didn't see any of the others. And so you don't see any of the other sort of chaff to the wheat of what I wanted to see, right? So that's pretty cool about bins. So they're super easy to build. and they're super easy to use in your analysis. Any quick questions about bins? They're not complicated. Once you've created one bin, you're like an expert, basically. And you know, the key in creating a bin is just remembering you're filtering on the same way you do whenever you create a filter for anything else. So you can filter on a specific set of values, or on matching a phrase, or whatever. I find it's easiest to filter on specific values because it's usually, in my case anyways, cases where I know specific values that I just want to group together. Okay, so that's bins, and the name of those two reports is in, they're in the slides. And when you use these, you'd have to change the bins to match your own values. So the other thing is calculations. Calculations are pretty awesome because you